Hi, thanks for joining me. So today we're going to do another video. I just wanted to talk about my PSP collection. This has just been sitting on my shelf, and for some reason I felt like taking it out. It's an interesting collection, and I have a little bit of a story, which I'll try to keep short, about my background with the PSP and with portable gaming. Suffice to say, I've never been much of a portable gamer until recently. Originally, the first portable gaming system I got was a Game Gear, and I picked that up, honestly, when I was in college. It was well after the Game Gear was contemporary, although you could still find it in stores. And I only got a couple games for it, and I didn't play it very much. It was basically an oddity. It was a curiosity in my collection. That was it. When the PSP came out in 2005, I didn't have a lot of extra spending money, and my buddy was a little more flush with cash, and he was a big PlayStation fan, and so he picked up the PSP, and he wanted me to have the PSP as well, so he got one for me, which is amazing, and I was so thankful, to him for that. And so I was excited. I actually had a PSP. It was close to launch, which was, unusual. I wasn't planning to get it necessarily. But with it in my hands, I picked up a couple of launch titles. I got something, it's like the Tower of Purgatory, something like that. Rengoku, maybe, something along those lines. I actually liked that game a fair amount. That was pretty cool. And I ended up picking up the Dynasty Warriors game that came out on PSP. It was really the first Dynasty Warriors game that I played very much of. That was decent too. That was alright. But after playing those for a bit, I was like, What I ended up doing with my PSP the most, originally, was actually downloading anime. At the time, we did not have streaming services that we could watch new anime, and so that was a way that I was getting a lot of those shows. And at the time, I wanted to watch Cardcaptor Sakura, because I'd never seen the whole thing. So I distinctly remember downloading all of Cardcaptor Sakura, and what I would do is I would encode 2 or 3 episodes of it per day into the format that would play on the PSP, and I would put it on the PSP, and I would take it with me to work. And I got 2 15-minute breaks and 1 1-hour lunch, and during that time, I could watch 2 or 3 episodes of Cardcaptor Sakura, which is how I watched that entire series, originally. So the PSP was a media player for me for a while, and after that I put it down for a fair amount of time. It went with me on trips now and then, and I guess I'll continue the story as I show off my PSP collection. Let's go ahead and get into it here. So for starters, we have Sengoku Canon. This is Sengoku Ace 2, Episode 2, I guess. So I picked this up when I was getting into shoot-'em-ups a little bit, especially Psycho shoot-'em-ups, and I got a couple of Psycho shooting collections on the PlayStation 2, and I really liked Sengoku Blade. Sengoku, is it Blade? Anyway, this is Sengoku Ace. And it's Episode 3, I'm sorry. Anyway, this is a follow-up to the Sengoku Blade, Sengoku Ace series, and it's okay. Everyone was kind of saying, this is like not as good as those games, and somehow it is a little bit lacking, but it's not bad. It might have been by some, I don't know, it still says Psycho, so I assume they developed it, but it might have been, maybe they contracted this out or something like that. Anyway, I don't remember the full story. Suffice to say, I haven't beaten that game, I don't think, but I played some of it. Next up, we have Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. And I think that this was just, when I was taking these off the shelf, I thought that most of my collection was all games that I just got at GameStop when they were clearancing out their PSP games. A lot of these I got for like $5 to $10, used, just because they were there on the shelf, and I was like, as long as GameStop's getting rid of their stuff, I'll pick up things I think I might be interested in. This isn't something that I played when it came out, but you know, it's more Metal Gear Solid stuff. I think Portable Ops is supposed to be like the good one on the PSP, so I grabbed that. I haven't played it. Next up is R-Type Command. This one I got, I want to say specifically because of Corn Muffin. I think that he was saying that there's this these R-Type strategy, tactical RPGs. And I was like, oh, that's super weird. I mean, I just would have assumed that this was a shoot 'em up, and I might have gotten it because it's a shoot 'em up, but I'm not very good at the R-Type games. I remember having something of a bad experience with an R-Type game on the PS2, whichever one that was. I tried playing it and I was like, yeah, I just wasn't very good at it. But this sounds cool. I like tactical RPGs, and like based in like kind of a science fiction shoot 'em up universe. It sounded neat. The general story with these is that I haven't played them. I'll talk more about it, like I said, but a lot of these games I haven't played because I just picked them up for the most part when they were cheap. That was an exception, though. It wasn't expensive. That was like a $15 game, but I got it on eBay. This is the Third Birthday. I think Square Enix famously lost the rights to the Parasite Eve name, so Third Birthday. I hear mixed things about this. Some people love this game, some people hate this game. So I don't know where I fall on that. I enjoyed the original Parasite Eve, and I thought Parasite Eve 2, unfortunately, took like all of the bad elements from a Resident Evil sort of game and just shoehorned it into Parasite Eve. It wasn't all that great. And this is like a third-person shooter, so I don't know. I'll check it out at some point. Taito Legends. I picked this up. Taito Legends Power Up. I picked this up when I was on a trip somewhere. There was a mall. It had a mom and pop used video game store in it. They had some cool stuff, and I picked this up. I think this was around when I was getting into a lot of arcade collections, and this one I think in particular has like a game or two that doesn't appear on any of like Taito's other collections that were released here, something along those lines maybe. I almost want to say that the version of Kiki Kai Kai that's on here you can't really get anywhere else, as it was released here anyway. But I think I just wanted this to play on the road while I was out. Valkyrie Profile Lenneth. I haven't played this. I think some people kind of swear by this. You know, I know that this series has some fans, and this is supposed to be a cool one, I think. I don't really remember. So like kind of a 2D action RPG, is that right? Anyway, I just picked it up. This was at GameStop. You know, I probably spent, whatever, $8 on it or something. I just didn't want to leave it sitting there when it was probably something I'd enjoy checking out someday. Igre Union, that's probably how you'd say that. Another one that I just picked up off the GameStop shelf. It's a RPG. It's published by Atlas. It's developed by Sting, though. And I've been wanting to check out some of Sting's stuff. I think it's really the Sting's, games on the PSP that I think I'm probably most interested in checking out. Mostly after having played, I guess unfortunately still not all of, what was it, Hyper Devotion, Noir, Gekishin Blackheart on the Vita. Anyway. Neverland Card Battles. Future Media Creators Ukes. I know of some other stuff they've developed, but I can't think of it offhand. But this was published by Idea Factory, and I seem to remember this looks pretty cool. I mean, I don't know exactly what type of card battle it is, but I mean, if it's like a card battle game, sometimes they're cool. There's at least one card battle game I've played in the past that I've enjoyed. Shin Megami Tensei Persona. I think I picked this up at a mom and pop store kind of near me. I think maybe along with this other one that's coming up next. It's Persona. I figured everyone loves the Persona games, and I figured maybe this could be my introduction to Persona. Of course, I did try playing some of Persona 4 before I started trying this out, and I couldn't quite get into it. Maybe starting at the beginning, you know, will be a better starting point for me. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, I believe. You know, this is one of those things where this is a high-profile PSP release, and I didn't get it because I like Final Fantasy VII or because of any of that. It was sort of, again, it was just like a thing, and I was like, you know, it was pretty cheap, and I'm like, you know, if I'm gonna have anything on the PSP, it might be worth my while to check this out. I don't know, though, because I haven't played Final Fantasy VII, if I should play Final Fantasy VII first, so I haven't checked that out yet. We'll see what I feel like doing about my lack of having played Final Fantasy VII. Gungnir, this is also by Atlas, I think. Is this also by Sting? Yes, this is another Sting tactical RPG. So, again, pretty interested in checking their stuff out. Like, if I were to sit down someday and, like, just pick out a PSP game to play, like these Sting RPGs, they're likely candidates. Fate Extra. I am still salty because, as far as I know, we have never gotten an official version of the visual novel for Fate. And this was years ago. Last time I checked, it was still like a couple of the chapters were fan translated and not the whole thing. And I've been wanting to play that visual novel forever, and I kind of refuse to play any other Fate stuff until like we get the original game. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of don't like that they release stuff like this and they haven't released the visual novel. I want to read the visual novel. So I don't even know really what. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did actually pop this in the PSP and check it out, but I think it's almost like Persona-ish a little bit in its gameplay. I don't really know. Maybe it's an action RPG or something. I'm not sure. I don't really remember. I did pop that in and check it out at one point. Again, I got that at GameStop. Castlevania, Dracula X Chronicles. This is super cool. I have not checked it out. But as far as I know, this has Symphony of the Night on it, which I also have on the PlayStation. I had it on the PlayStation originally. It was one of like the first 2 or 3 games that I ever got for my PlayStation when I first got it. And this, I didn't really get so much for Symphony of the Night. I got it because it has this other thing on it. What is it? Rondo of Blood, which this has been like this holy grail for a bunch of Castlevania fans. It seems like forever, because I think it was only ever available on something semi-obscure, like the PC Engine or the, I don't know what. It was on some other system, the MSX or who knows what. I think this is the first way North American fans have had a way to access this game officially, so I should check that out at some point. I dig Symphony of the Night. It's a pretty cool game. Kenka Bancho, Badass Rumble. I don't remember if I picked this up. I feel like I ordered this online, but I may have just seen it at a GameStop. I don't quite remember. I feel like a YouTuber has spoken about this. Maybe Corn Muffin. Maybe someone else. Maybe my memory is just bad. But I don't know. It's like a sort of a Yankee, like, you know, Japanese delinquent kid beat 'em up game. You know, which seems sort of cool. Maybe after I played Yakuza, like, I was a little more interested in this kind of game. It's developed by Spike, too. Spike Chunsoft now. And published by Atlas, you know, whatever. But I thought it looked cool. I grabbed it. Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novel. When I found out that there was a visual novel, a graphic novel, you might say, for Metal Gear Solid on the PSP, I was like, yes, yes please. I haven't read this. I'd really like to read this. There's another similar sort of game in here that I'd really like to read as well. So maybe I should prioritize those a little bit here. If I guess, you know, if I crack my PSP out at some point. Next we have Summon Night 5. Now this was sort of like, what was it, 3, 4, or 5 years ago, and I was right in the middle of my like collecting, you know, maybe a little bit too much of a collecting craze. But I was excited. You know, it's cool to see something, you know, sort of an independent company like Gaijin Works licensing something. This is by Flight Plan, if I remember correctly, and I just talked about Flight Plan, but you know, I like a game or two that they have done. I think their stuff's really interesting, and we've never gotten the Summon Night series, as far as I know, officially in the West. So I don't know if this is the first one, or maybe, I almost feel like maybe they did digitally one of the other games first or something. I kind of forget. But this was super weird, like a physical PSP release. It was late. I ended up picking up a couple copies of it, which I sold 1 or 2 of them and kept. I think you could, maybe they limited it to 2. I forget. I got a couple and I sold 1 or 2. Anyway, I kept that one. Joan of Arc. That's how I'm going to say this, and this seems cool. I don't know if it's actually developed by the people that did like Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics, but it has that same sort of tactical gameplay, and it's also, oh no, it's actually says right on here level 5, but that's a good pedigree. And it's directly from Sony Computer Entertainment, so this seems cool. People seem to say that this is pretty cool, and somewhere in here I have it in Japanese as well, thanks to, I think, Odecon. Yeah, here it is. So, I have the opportunity to play this in Japanese, which I may take. It's always good to have something to practice, immerse yourself. I'm studying right now. It's driving me nuts. But anyway, Disgaea Infinite. This is the other visual novel game that I was really excited about getting. This is it's a Disgaea visual novel, and honestly I haven't played most of the Disgaea games. I played 3, and I liked that quite a bit, but I've always kind of wanted to catch up on this, you know, the story. It always seemed like just fun-loving and interesting, and I don't know if this actually is, you know, a story from the first, you know, game or 2, or if it's its own thing. I have a feeling it's its own thing, but it looks like it has, you know, Laharl, and actually I see whatever the character was from 3, I think, also. So there's a bunch of characters in here. So, anyway. This was an official localized thing. This is weird. This is kind of exciting for me. I should check that out, that and that Metal Gear digital comic. Valkyria Chronicles 2. I never played the first one, but I did get it on the PlayStation 3. I still have it, and I still intend to play it at some point, and I figured I might as well get the second one, especially since I just got this at GameStop. It was $10 or something on the shelf, and wanted to get those things while the getting was good. Their PSP sections dried up pretty quickly. There was like a year or so where you could get some good stuff, and then it was gone. So, Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. Again, this was just at GameStop. You know, and I've never played the original Tactics Ogre, and I think this is probably a good way to do it. I think your only other option was playing this on the Super Nintendo, but I don't know if it was ever localized here. I could be wrong about that. I know there's the N64 version, but that's different. It's not really turn-based tactical strategy. It's sort of like real-time. So yeah, this is supposed to be a pretty good port, I think. So that should be a cool game. Okay. Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. So I haven't really continued with my story of my PSP. What happened is I put the PSP aside for a while. You know, it was kind of a media machine. I was taking it to work every day, watching anime, stuff like that. But, you know, I moved on to brighter, shinier things to a certain extent. And, but you guys probably know the PSP went through something of a resurgence. It took a while, but it became known as this really good JRPG machine. And I think, in retrospect, it has this really positive image, but it didn't have such a positive image when it first came out. So I put it aside myself for quite a while, but I picked it back up again, I think, when some of my friends had their own PSPs and were getting into, you know, their own stuff, and I ended up getting one of the new PSPs when I did have a little bit more, you know, spending money. And I actually liked it a lot because it's lighter. That sounds funny, I don't know, I guess I'm a wimp, but the original PSP was a little hefty, and just holding it there if you're going to be playing a game for a long time, I really appreciated the redesign of PSP, whatever the PSP was, 2000 or 1000 or something. Anyway, it was lighter, and it was quite nice. So anyway, I picked this up. I went out of my way to get this because I wanted just like some anime games, and I just like Ghost in the Shell. The game on the PlayStation is really good, and this one is pretty good too. It's maybe not quite as good as the PlayStation one. It's a little different, but you're actually still piloting a Fujikoma and running around in these 3D environments, and it's cool. I kind of liked it. I'd play some more of this. It wasn't like amazing, but it's good. So one game that got me back into playing the PSP also, and unfortunately I didn't play very much of it, is Phantasy Star Portable. You guys remember in my top 12 games of all time, Phantasy Star was on that. Phantasy Star Universe, Phantasy Star Online from the Dreamcast. I did play Phantasy Star Universe, which unfortunately was not as good as Phantasy Star Online. But this was supposed to be kind of like Phantasy Star Online, but not online. Although I think you could play with your friends, so it was sort of like a hybrid thing. But I'm like, yes, please. And unfortunately I didn't play that much of it. It just, I don't know, I didn't quite get into it, but it was, you know, PSO-ish, so who knows, maybe I'll play a little more of that. Taiko no Tatsujin. Now this is an important PSP game as well in my collection, because my PSP did travel with me to Japan, my original PSP, and it was kind of how I was introduced to the fact that it's region-free, and you can play whatever Japanese games on it that you want, which is amazing and great. And this is the first Japanese game I played on it, and I think my buddy in Japan might have just given me his copy of this. He was like, hey, you know, you got your PSP, here, take this game. And I really appreciated that. I remember playing this in the airport, waiting for the plane coming back from Japan, kind of a thing. And it's just fun. It's Taiko no Tatsujin. It's a rhythm game. This was probably one of the first rhythm games I really got into, aside from like Parappa the Rapper, which I had played. But this was sort of when like Japan started, you know, there was a little bit of a rhythm game boom, and this is a cool game. It's fun. So, because you can play Japanese games on the PSP, I ended up picking up this. I'm a Lucky Star fan, and this is Lucky Star Net Idolmeister. And honestly, I don't know anything about this. I don't even think I've played this. I've been meaning to play the one on the PlayStation 2 first. In fact, I have played through the first chapter of it, and it's fun. So I'll probably play that, and then, you know, I don't know, someday. Or maybe I'll check this one out. But I did want that. Project Diva. This is the original Project Diva, just Project Diva. And my buddy got this, and it's interesting because this was the buddy that got me my PSP. And I almost feel a little guilty because at the time, like, we'd been playing Rock Band, and I think I was rhythm gamed out with Rock Band. And then my buddy got this, and he was all like, oh, this is so cool, dude, you would love this. And I think, like, I mean, he was right. I mean, it's like, it's Hatsune Miku, and it's super cool, and I remember at the time, I wasn't into it, you know, and I'm just, sometimes even something you would like, you just aren't into at the time. Like, I was not into this. But finally, he was actually getting rid of well, I think he might have gotten rid of his PSP and all of his games for it. I kind of forget, but anyway, he was getting rid of his games, and he's like, here, do you want this? I was like, sure. I think at this point, I might have, like, by the time I got this, I think I might have, like, played Project Diva F, possibly, at that time. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure. It might have been pre-Diva F, but at any rate, Project Diva F was more my introduction than this was. But I definitely, you know, saw my buddy play that a little bit. Brave Story, New Traveler. I misattributed this to Crack Lotus, I think. He didn't talk about it. I saw somebody talk about this on YouTube, and it sounded interesting. You know, it was by Xseed. So I think I may have gone out of my way to get this on like eBay or something, or maybe I found it at GameStop. I don't really remember. You know, published by Xseed, so it's probably might be Marvelous, or I don't know who developed it. But it's an RPG. It's supposed to be good. The Growlancer, Wayfarer of Time. These games have always seemed pretty cool. Designs by Satoshi Urushihara. You know, from back in the day, did the designs for the Langrisser games and stuff like that. So yeah, these seem cool. I haven't played it. I'm not even really sure. I think this might be a follow-up. Like, it's not just a redo of the ones that came out on PlayStation 2. I think it's a new game. I don't know. Again, I just grabbed that at GameStop. Fantasy Golf. Panya. Anyway, this game. This might have been my buddy's. I might have gotten it at GameStop. I like golf. I like, you know, Mina No Golf, or whatever it is, Swiss Hot Shots Golf. And this, you know, seems cool. So yeah, so the other big thing that I got into my PSP, the other big game, I guess, there's a couple of games here that I got into on my PSP. So, so after the Resurgence, and some of my buddies were playing their PSPs more, and, you know, I knew that it would play Japanese games, I was like, oh, you know, there are some PSP games I'd like to import, and one of them was this one here, Queen's Blade, Spiral Chaos. This was around when I first started my YouTube channel, as you guys will know if you look back at the very first videos that I posted. And this would have been around when the PlayStation 3 was already out, but you know, the PSP was still going strong, and this is super cool. I really enjoyed this game. I think I've mentioned it before. I posted tips and, you know, some gameplay stuff from this game. I've got a handful of like videos talking about like what the menus say and how to play the game a little bit. It's just really good, and I liked the Queen's Blade anime. It's a little embarrassing, but it's a good anime. I mean, it's fun, and I liked it. So this game is super cool. I've actually played this game start to finish. Only like one of the routes, but it's good. I really enjoyed this game. So so that was sort of like one of the first really full experiences I had on the PSP. Certainly I enjoyed some of the other games I played on it, but I sort of messed around with it. Queen's Blade Spiral Chaos was like the game that I played on the PSP that really was like, oh, like I'm treating this like a real game system and like enjoying it and having a full experience on it. Another game I grabbed at GameStop, Sweet Fuse. Not, you know, big on the Otome games. I've mentioned before, you know, they're fine. You know, and they aren't necessarily going to be, I mean, I think some of them are going to be more, like, romance-focused than others, and might be, like, more or less appealing depending on your romantic inclinations, but, I heard decent things about this. I know that, yeah, the Shenmue guy was involved in this, and, you know, it just, it seemed pretty cool. Again, I just picked this up at GameStop because they had it on sale, but I might check that out at some point. It's supposed to be pretty good. Crimson Gem Saga, again, I just grabbed this at GameStop. I don't really know much about it. Tales of the World Radiant Mythology. Never been big into the Tales series. I thought that this might be the only way to get this game, though, and so, again, I saw it, I figured I'd pick it up. Come to find out, then, they released this, I think, on the Wii. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not this game, but I think it is. But I have the PSP version. And we're down to the last couple here. This is another Queen's Blade game. This is Queen's Gate, Spiral Chaos, and I cannot tell you how excited I was for this coming out. I loved Queen's Blade, Spiral Chaos, and I was just, you know, fully on board for this. Now, I got it. I made another video about it on YouTube, and I didn't end up finishing this one. And that's too bad, but, you know, sometimes, I don't know, you just burn out on something, you lose interest. That happened to me. The cool thing about this one is, aside from just the Queen's Blade characters, because this is Queen's Gate, that actually ties into the Battle Book series of games. It's all sort of like a tabletop game where you use these books to battle, like, one-on-one character battles. And so they added in characters from other franchises in Queen's Gate as books. And then they used those characters in this game. So what's super cool about this is you have characters like Mai from King of Fighters, or what, Art of Fighting or something that I forget which one she was part of. Originally you have, you know, the characters on the cover here are probably from things that I should know. Actually, I think this is, was it Dizzy, I want to say? One of the characters from Guilty Gear. You know, stuff like that, like characters from other franchises. So that's awesome. I think she's from a visual novel that I should know the name of. Anyway, cool game. I just didn't play quite as much of it as I thought I would. But another game that I did play as much of as I thought I would, which was a lot, is this game here, the Ore no Imoto ga kona ni kawaii wake ga nai portable. So this is, I can't believe my sister is this cute. Yeah, this was a TV series. It was kind of a big deal whenever it was, back in, I don't know what, 2012 or who knows when. 2011. And anyway, this is the special edition. There's not a whole lot to it, but I'll show you. So it comes in a thing. You take it out of the thing. It's got the game and a book. Is that it? I guess that might be it. I almost thought there was like something else to it. Anyway, yeah. So it comes with this book. I don't really have any other Japanese novels right now, and I don't know if maybe calling this a novel is a stretch. It's like a short story, but it's real. Like, it's a book. You know, these are actual, the way that you read books in Japanese. And, you know, so it's been part of my goal, I think, now that I'm studying vocab again and stuff like that. Like, I'd like to get to that point where, you know, maybe I'll have to have passed N1, maybe I'll still have to, you know, work up to it, but where I can at least read something like this. I assume this is like light novel quality writing, you know, but where I can read it easily. I mean, I can read it now, where you know, basically I can read it and then look up words that I don't know and things like that, but it's just, I'd like to read it with a, you know, certain amount of ease without having to rely on dictionaries too much. Someday, we'll see. It may be a gauge of my Japanese progress at some point. But anyway, that's a cool game. I played a bunch of it. It's got, you know, it's got roots. It's like a romantic adventure game, but it isn't. I'm trying to remember if it's really like has like sort of romance endings to it or not. But I know I played through like Kirito. Is that her name? I think it is. I played through her route, and I played through Kuroneko's route, and I'm probably started on one of the other routes. It's cool. I used to have YouTube videos up for this, but I took them down because they flagged them for content when they were releasing the sequel to this, because they didn't want my videos interfering with their promotions of their videos. So anyway, so you can't watch those anymore. But yeah, it's a cool game. So that's my PSP collection. I don't think I've shown that off before. Before I post this, maybe I'll look and see and make sure, but I hope that was interesting, and I won't talk your ear off. It's been long enough, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.